respectfully disagree. I think it's a neutral. We haven't done, the town doesn't have the resources or the expertise to do the studies that DEC and whoever's been doing it. People that are given this authority to do this. As far as rescinding it, I don't know if we need to. We can take a look at it. We certainly can have, you know, can I have a meeting, have a hearing, you know, some more input on it. I don't have a problem with that.
Don't you have an interest in that, though? You said you did have leased land.
I had some that I purchased that was an existing lease on it.
Correct.
That I'm trying to get out.
So you do have an interest.
I think we all have an interest in it.
I have an interest in it.
No,
I'm concerned that it's going to ruin all my
You
water.
have an interest in it, and either you're for it or against it, or somewhere in the middle. And I think that's where I am.
She means financial interest.
I need
No.
financial interest as long as.
No, actually, I'm trying to get out of the lease.
Presumably, when you speak, you're speaking in our behalf. And if you find out that overwhelmingly you were wrong in what you said in our behalf, shouldn't you tell Albany we were wrong?
I'm sure we can, but what good would it do you as a matter of
What
fact?
would it do who?
What good would it do the town? What good would it do anyone? They've made their mind up, but you have to know that.
Well, that's all the more reason why why you should be, if you're saying they made their mind up, that it doesn't matter what the people say, then you, of all people in a small community, ought to be saying, wait a minute, Governor, you can't be making up the mind for the people of the state of New York, including town of Colesville and Little County. You should be opposed to that. Just as a matter of fact, you should be opposed to just that. If you feel, as it seems like what's happening is that the governor has tried to get little groups like this, little communities like this, rubber stamped in a hurry without really testing the community feelings, then you're complicit in that, and that's wrong.
May I ask a question? Was there a mandate from the governor's office that he hear from all the small communities how they stand with the fracking?
That's what I was telling.
And the purpose of passing this resolution, even though I mentioned it the next meeting, that I too was upset that it was passed. I being one who I never stay until the end of the meeting. But the fact is that it did happen. The fact is that my understanding is that it's a neutral. You've allowed the town the room to vote yay or nay once we find more about it. Didn't like how you got there, but the fact is that it won't harm us. When you sent the resolution to the governor, the results of the resolution, why was it sent to the governor if there was no mandate to hear from us?
Yes, that's a good question.
Okay. Basically, the long and short is, the resolution came through the JLC, which is a joint landowners committee. Okay, now, when you guys say there's nobody that supports it, you know, you brought up that I'm on the top of the page on the Windsor Colesville Coalition. You know, we've got 1,300 and some members, so I can't say there's no interest in the community. That's a given. And, you know, basically, for those of you that haven't read the resolution, which I've got an idea there's several that haven't, basically it doesn't say we're for it or against it. It says we're going to wait till DEC's done before we make a decision whether the town does anything for or against it, because up until that point, it's premature. I mean, some towns have created bans, and I'll be through in a minute, man. You know, they've spent lots of money. Some of them have gone to court and spent money. Well, it's totally foolish for the town of Colesville to do anything until the state makes up their decision, whether they do or don't release it.
Then why the resolution? Why not, why make a commitment or even post a resolution, pass a resolution, if you can stand back and stand neutral without making any type of commitment? Why was the resolution passed? What was the purpose of passing it?
The purpose of passing was that the JLC wanted the governor to know what communities were thinking or not thinking of putting a ban prematurely on it.
So
Prematurely.
1,300 people made that decision for the rest of the community. How many of those
No, I didn't say
1,300?
1,300
Wait a minute.
people made
You
any
said
decision.
1,300 people belong to that thing that you belong to. How many of them live in the town of Colesville? 1,300?
Okay, they all live in, it's the Windsor, Colesville. So out of 1,300, they all live in Windsor or Colesville. Exactly the breakdown
Okay.
between, I can't tell you it's
What
half and
about the
half.
rest of us 5,000 people in the town
Right.
of Colesville? What about us? We have a say too, don't we?
Right.
I want to do my own resolution that we ban fracking in the town of Colesville. I'll find out how to do it. So I don't know how to do it because I haven't been active in our local community, but I'm going to be now. I have a right too. I have as much right as those 1,300 people.
Right. And my point
And I
was
think you
that
have a
not that
very-
they have more rights or less rights, but that there
But
certainly
they
are
have no
people
right to
that are
make my
interested.
decision for me.
Right. And, you know, everybody, whether they are for it or against it, is a personal decision.
When I first bought my place, about a year later, I was talking to my neighbor, somewhat up the road, and I mentioned it casually about hydrofracking. And he said, yeah, he's for it. He says, I'm gonna take the money and run. That's what he told me.
Yeah, I keep hearing how all the local farmers are all for fracking, and all the farmers that I know are not for fracking. The ones that are young, the ones that are still in the business are not for fracking. I'm not for fracking. Most everybody that I associate with is not for fracking. The farmers that are for fracking are the ones that are on their way out of town. As soon as they get the money, they're gone. I can't see how anybody that is an active farmer will stay in business if they have a well on their property, because it's just not good for it's not good for cows, it's not good. I grow produce, I have chickens, it's not good for them to have that polluted water and all the stuff that's in the air from that. No, I just don't see how everybody can say all the local farmers are for it. And I keep hearing that over and over again.
Hi, I'm Chuck Hendrickson, 186 Park Hill. It was several years ago, this board wrote a resolution for me, you remember this? Where you called me a hero because I did something. But I think every one of you in this board is more courageous than I am. Because you have a responsibility to make a decision for all of our lives. For all of us. You have the responsibility, and it's a huge responsibility, to make sure that we are safe in our community. You have that responsibility to make sure that our families are safe, our land is safe, our water is safe. I don't know if I would like to be in this spot and to make this choice, that you know that the choice that you're going to make is for me, for the rest of my life, and for my family. So find it in your hearts to make the choices that we need to make so all of the community be healthy and all of the community to live in a good way. That's all we pray for.
Thank you, Jeff.
I appreciate you letting me speak, considering I'm not a town resident. In the absence of science, and that's what we are in right now, the governor keeps saying, he's repeated, I'm going to make my decision on science. Our senator, Senator Libous, has repeated that. I'm going to make my decision on science. But the fact is, we, in the demonstration project, which is northeast Pennsylvania and south central Pennsylvania, there has not been a cumulative health impact study done. We have a laboratory just one state south of us, and they haven't studied it. The science that is coming out, okay, let's forget about any legitimate science. What I'm arguing is that there is no science which says this is safe. And in the absence of data, in the absence of science, the only thing we are left with is the precautionary principle. The precautionary principle demands that we examine worst case scenarios. So the question is, what is the worst case scenario in 30 years, in 40 years, of 70,000 injection wells all over the southern tier? What's the cumulative impact going to be when that little girl is my age? What's going to be the impact for her on this place, on the habitability, the ability of this place to support life? That's what's at stake here. If you do the math, conservative estimate, 5 million gallons per well for one frac times 70,000 wells. What does that come out with? How much water are we talking about total? Who's done the math? I'll tell you what it is. I've done the math. It's 350 billion gallons of water that is permanently removed from the hydrological cycle. Do we have any idea scientifically what possible impacts that will have on the ability of this place to support life? 350 billion gallons. This has never been done before in the history of humanity. What's the worst case scenario? I can think of one. Let's look at two different river basins. This river basin over here has lots of water and lots of trees. It's called a forest. That's where we live. We live in a forest. It's a deciduous forest. It's a conifer forest. We live in a forest. That's what this area is. Here's a river basin over here that's had the trees cut or poisons introduced and the water drained. What do we call that river basin?
Dead.
What else? The desert.
Yeah.
A desert is a river basin with no water. The water's been drained, the trees have been removed. Guess what hydrofracking does? It drains water and it removes trees on a massive scale. This could be genocide for this place for 5,000 years. This could kill this place. It is your duty as elected representatives to do everything in your power to protect that little girl and everybody else here. It is absolutely unconscionable to call a ban an irresponsible use of your power. It's exactly what you should be doing. I made out a call. I'm connected to this movement all over the state of New York, all over Pennsylvania. I put a call out to to New York, to this place, and I said, how many towns, because we have over 100 towns now that have passed local bans. Did they just do that on a whim? Did they do that with no public hearing? No. There was petition drives in every one of those 100 towns, and there's 50 more that have active petition drives right now that are working for a ban in New York State. 100 now. 33 of those 100 towns responded to my request. Here is my question. When you went around with your petition going door to door, knock, 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 asking people to sign, what percentage of people signed? Any idea? I think it was 10%? 20%? What do you think?
80.
50%? It was 80%.
Yeah.
All over the state of New York, 80% were against it. And I'll tell you, because somebody looked at a professor emeritus from Binghamton University in the mathematics department named Dennis Pixton went to the county records and he looked up how the leased land. And it turned out to be 40% of Broome County is leased, but it amounted to 4% of the population were the controllers of that property. That's the percentages here. 4% of the people want this because they're property owners and they're going to get a big cash out. Let's give another 10% to hotel owners and restaurant owners and people that own cement companies, truck driving fleets, the people of the service industries that are going to profit from this. Let's call that 15% total. 80% of the people are against it all over New York. And so to say that the people of this area, you think the people of this area is for this activity, I think you ought to have a referendum. I think you ought to have, put it to the vote of your town and let's see what the percentages are. Thank you.
Can I make 2 comments? Sure. I'd like to make 2 comments in rebuttal.
Sure.
1, I'm not currently in a gas lease. My lease is expired. And 2, the little girl that you keep pointing to is my daughter, and we're consumers of, we use natural gas in our house, which came from someplace. Okay, that's it.
You make some very good points. My question to you once again, what are you doing with that information?
I'm doing lots.
Here, what are you doing?
I'm doing 2 things. I'm documenting it. I blog. I have a wiki. I do a lot for this issue. I've been to every single S-Guys hearing. I go to Albany lobby days. I do a lot.
Do they
This
listen
is,
to you?
pardon?
Do they listen to you?
I think overall, the people are listening, and the evidence of that is the map.
People are listening. I go to the Vestal Farmers Market with my produce, and Vestal is becoming very active in trying to stop fracking in the town of Vestal. And out of this, one woman's been taking names and has a petition going, and she stops people one at a time as they're going by. And I think she's told me that, she's the one that told me it was about 80% of all the people she talks to sign her petition. And basically what is needed right now is education on what's going on. The fact that the hydrofractors won't even tell you what's in that fluid that they're going to be using, and that it's proprietary and they're not going to tell us what's in there, that's an issue for me. I need to know what's in there. I need to know if the water table is going to be ruined and I won't be able to grow any produce anymore. Our produce won't be organic. If I have to take water that's contaminated, also, it's a rather big business locally for people that are selling produce in the city and stuff.
You have to assume that it will contaminate the water. That's why they got Congress to exempt that.
I don't assume anything. I can't assume anything. Like I said, I do not trust the DEC. I figure all these hours the DEC has been spending writing their report is trying to find ways to cover up what's actually going on. I don't trust them.
You don't trust them. You don't trust them with the logging industry. You don't trust them with fish and wildlife.
I don't
You don't
trust
trust
them,
them
no.
with
They have colluded with
Chesapeake
industry.
watershed. None of these things we trust.
They have
the DEC.
colluded with industry on this
They
issue.
are-
There was
they
a Freedom
are
of Information
behind
Act request.
on-
Look up the emails between Tom West, who wrote the S-Guys, coincidentally. Tom West is also the plaintiff in a challenge of the town's municipal authority to ban it in Middlefield. Same lawyer, huh?
The DEC is not all that honest. Did you see what happened when they decided that they wanted to stop the boilers, the outdoor wood stoves? Did you see what they did with that? They had information, they had it plastered all over how dangerous it was and everything. And when we asked them how many complaints there actually were, in 20 years there was only 110 complaints in the whole state about outdoor wood boilers. And they were blowing it up and saying it was a lot more. And when we actually pinned them down and we wanted to see the actual facts, they really were lying about the whole thing. It's just a way to get rid of something that is good, a renewable resource, and then they would be able to have more people using the natural gas and the oil and all the other things around here, which they think is just wonderful. I don't trust those people. I don't think they have our best interests in mind at all. And if you don't actually look out for the facts and the details and what is really going on in things, you might believe that they're doing good. They're not doing good if you look at the details and you get the figures. They are not telling the truth. And my idea is if they're spending 900 hours working on this paper, or how many hours you said on your resolution, if they're spending all those hours, it's only to try to find ways to cover up what they're actually interested in. I went to SUNY Binghamton. I have a degree in science. I choose to be a farmer. I prefer that. But I don't believe everything I see from the government anymore, and it's so sad that I can't believe it. And that's another reason why I was so upset when I heard that you slid this thing through. I don't want to go through that. We're a little community. We have a chance to be honest and to really look at this and see what's the best for us. And we might get screwed over by the government in the long run, but we're small. We have the opportunity to do the best we can for our people and for the future of our children and stuff. And natural gas is great. I prefer burning wood and having a renewable resource for my heat and my water. You heat my hot water in my 13-room house with a outdoor wood stove. Natural gas could be good, but I think this is a smoke screen. I don't really think that they're going to actually make enough money on this natural gas that's here to actually...
Is that based on fact or emotion?
It's based on fact.
It is. Is there a report I can read on that?
I'll see if I can
speak
get
to
it
that.
out for you, but I'll have to go home to get it for you. I've been reading on everything I can get my hands on. And I think it's important that you all read everything and look at both sides, not just the side that you're leaning towards too. I'm reading everything. I'm not just reading the stuff that these people are trying to push on us either. Everybody's got their agenda. My agenda is having a safe environment for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and when I leave here, which won't be, I'm 60, I'm not going to be here forever. When I leave here, I don't want to leave this in a worse situation than what it already is. I mean, there's been years and years of pollution in this area. There's Doraville. There was the Ansco plant, I think it was, in Afton that left a lot of toxic waste. We don't need to do that more. We don't have to make this place totally uninhabitable.
Let me share your understanding.
I can speak to the point about economics briefly.
Do you have anything else to say as far as holding a public meeting?
At this point, I'll agree with what we voted on, that it's immature until the state releases theirs, because no matter whether we ban it or don't ban it, nothing happens till the state's done.
Would that be the point of no return
It's too late.
Or is it already the point of no return?
I think of the point of no return a year or so ago, before the town got
I don't want to
involved.
be a victim, and it sounds like you're already being a victim. You've already given up.
And one thing you should all remember, the only reason they drill for natural gas is because
Sell it across.
It makes money.
we are all customers of it.
I use it
We're
in
not,
my
that
own.
gas is not going to be
Works
sold
good.
here. It's going to be
They're gonna be
sold
selling
someplace
it
else.
to China.
It goes for 2 or 3 times as much as it is here
They're not gonna
overseas.
sell it. We're not
That's
gonna
why
have
they're
a
building
lower
plants
rate.
to export it.
Why don't we put it up to public vote? Just plain and simple. Put it on the ballot in November. Put it on the ballot. You're afraid to.
That's exactly right.
Ed,
I don't think we'd get it on the ballot this late.
well, why not?
How long can we get that on the ballot this time of year?
I doubt it. You first I'd have to research even whether it's an issue that could go on the ballot.
Is there
And then
a way?
After that, you'd have to discuss it and decide whether you even want to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, well, they don't want to.
Now, Ed, is there a way that you could hold a public meeting, get somebody in here to talk to people, get the people from the town of Colesville to come in and listen? Because, like she said, there's a lot of people out there that don't know what's going on. A lot of people don't take the interest. I think they should be made more aware of what's happening and so on, and let's,
I agree with you,
Get
and
on.
I have every intention of holding a public meeting.
well, why don't we go on from there then? Because like this gentleman back here said, there's a lot of other issues to bring up.
Basically, that's what we want to do. I just want everybody to have an opportunity through the board member
Yeah.
to state their feelings. But if you want to schedule a meeting among yourself, because it's you versus, 4 or 5 here, get back to me and we'll proceed.
There are people to hear, like the gentleman that's been speaking there, Carol Martin and Shelley. They've done a lot of research into this, and they could make more of the people here aware of what is going on. But I kind of feel like at this point we're kind of,
We are.
you know,
Question.
treading water.
I was hoping that you would like represent us and do the right thing and have a public hearing rather than make us try to make a public hearing and then you'll sit there and decide what to do about it. I wish you would call a public meeting.
Well, you did say
So
that.
our feelings could be concerned, could be addressed, and
Just make a meeting of that, and that's all that we'll do.
advertise it and let people have their say.
You're gonna have your say, and I was throwing the door open for you,
Thank you.
so you don't think that myself is dictating. There's nothing wrong with you people getting together and coming back and say, we'd like it on January 10th or whatever. Do
Well, we
it.
don't want it on January 10th.
Do it.
We gotta wait till after the election.
Yeah.
That's a good point. If you want to do it September 1st, I don't have a problem with that.
How would you do that? Would you have like
Just about Mr. Pope's meeting.
Mr. Pope, Mr. Pope, will you be researching whether it could be on the ballot for the November election?
Only if the board asks me to do it.
Okay. Well, that'd be the next question, but before that, I'd just like to say regarding Mr. Windsor, whether you can confirm it or not, my guess is that of the, I think you said 1,300 people, that a lot of those, well, at least a number of those 1,300 people probably felt the way most people feel like it's going to happen anyway, I may as well sign up. I think that's probably a lot of what happens is that people are resigned that the governor's ready to push it. I mean, you sort of suggested that already, and so on. Another thing, just one other point that's a little off from this, is that, and there are probably other people who have done more research than me, more understanding, is that there are lawsuits all over the country against the oil, the natural gas companies for not giving them their just, compensation, charging them for drilling operations and so on, deducting that from royalties and so on. And my understanding is this is not like hundreds, this is thousands of people are in lawsuits where you have to now hire a lawyer up against multinational corporations. A very difficult thing. So 20 years from now, maybe they'll get justice, maybe they won't. So not only are the people here who might suffer from this have to deal with possible contamination, but also be in court for the rest of their life trying to get what they thought what they were promised in the first place. So there are a lot of negatives involved before, what this resolution says, we have confidence in the state. We have more confidence in you because you're our neighbors. We can get to you. We can't get to these people at the state.
The reason I believe it's a done deal, if you study history will tell you money talks. Very simple. You don't have to add anything to that. That's why you're a minority right now. You've got a silent majority out there behind you, but there's nobody to represent them essentially.
It's a majority.
Come in, make a date. You want to make it next week? Fine. Let me just have enough time so I get together with the American Legion and hold it up there. We certainly won't have it up there.
That wouldn't be big enough.
Pardon me?
Yeah, probably gonna have to get.
I'm going to close the public meeting.
For this gentleman.
Yes.
No. All right, my name is Jordan Patch. I just recently bought 85 Martin Hill Road, which is, I believe, the old Hallett Farm. It is a 15-acre parcel that I am hoping to develop and turn into what will be called an animal adventure. It is a interactive educational children's zoo. Sorry.
Yes, now, Tommy and I copied extras. We put them there. Do people, I see they're all gone, so some people, it looks like this, except I think yours isn't colored. How many, 6 we had? We made 6. I guess I could make another.
That's all right, I'll work on this.
A think the people that left must have taken them, which is perfectly all right, but you guys probably need them. Okay, Tommy and I went to a meeting at the county office building Monday, July 2nd, and Williams Pipeline, it's called the Constitution Pipeline, was there giving us information for 3 towns, town of Colesville, town of Sanford, and town of Windsor. Now, when I'm going to say the word pipeline, you're going to go crazy. It has nothing to do with our natural gas. All right. This is a pipeline that has already been approved. In fact, you'll have a chance to come and talk to the federal people, and I'll give you that date when they're going to be coming. And what it's doing is taking the gas, the natural gas from Pennsylvania, and it's going from Pennsylvania up to Schoharie County, which is near Albany. And what it's doing is giving natural gas to New York City. Okay.
And Boston.
And from Schoharie, that's the end date for this Constitution pipeline. Then it's going to go up to Boston. So the natural gas in Pennsylvania is going to go to New York City, and it's going to go to Boston with this Constitute, I guess it's called, pipeline. It goes through 15 miles of Broome County, touching the 3 towns I mentioned. Maps will be available. We asked for maps at the meeting. They're going to give them to Tommy. And so if you want to look at maps, when did he say? Did she say when they'd be? Yeah, didn't say, but probably not for.
Margaret, do you want to just give them a brief idea of where it is?
Follows the river? Is that?
Well, it comes up from PA through Gulf Summit.
Okay.
And then basically follows kind of between, on the ridge, between what I would call like Thornhill and that area and Route 41 is what it's proposed, I should say. And right now they've actually got, I have seen at least 9 proposed routes.
Because the one they posted me with was coming in at basically the Harts Road junction in there, going out of Colesville and blowing the Springs. That was the one proposal.
And they do have various alternate roads, and he was telling us that many times after the public hearing, they'll get ideas and then, go with part of the alternate, stay with the regular, and that type of thing.
Because they've been in contact with me because dirt roads they go through, hard roads they go under. This is the way they approached me because they wanted to know. I've been in contact with them because they different scenarios and this kind of stuff.
And basically, once they get to Afton, then they're gonna, in the general sense, go with I-88.
These are gathering lines? These are gathering gas lines? What are they?
This is transmission.
Transmission.
I mean, basically, it's the same as Millennium. It's 30-inch high pressure.
Does it connect with Millennium at any point?
It crosses Millennium. I have not specifically heard that it's a connector, but I would assume there would be some type of connection there.
Does it cross or connect with Laser Middies?
Laser Midstream is in the West Windsor area and comes up, what's the road off of Aquaga? Springsteen Road, is it?
Springsteen, Marshall.
Right. It's up in that area where it hits Millennium. This would be down in Gulf Summit, kind of on the ridge between Windsor and Deposit.
So this is a distribution line, not a gas. Laser Midstream is a gas gathering line with a compressor station on, not Harrison Road,
right.
The other one, Townsend Road.
And from what I understand, in Broome County, there will not be a compression station.
With this pipeline.
With this
But there is.
Constitute, yeah. And the names change. Apparently it was called Tennessee or something like that, or?
Well, and it's a joint between Cabot and Williams.
Okay.
I mean, Cabot's a gas producer, Williams. But there was actually another company that had a proposed line, and I can't even think now what they were calling it, something, at any rate, they've kind of, decided obviously not several companies are building a line, so.
Are they applying to be like a public, be treated as like a public utility, or are they
This will
applying
be
to be
FERC,
like private?
which is Federal Energy Regulation, Regulatory Commission, if I have them right.
And they're the ones that are gonna be at the public meeting. It's Wednesday, July 18th, at the West Windsor Firehouse,
Margaret,
6:30 to 8:30.
check and see if we can charge them a percentage for the gas or sewer tab.
The big concern to the gas groups is the fact that being FERC, they certainly have the right for eminent domain.
So that would be a primary issue, is eminent domain at this point?
It could be.
It could be.
They would have the right to file for it, I guess is the right terminology, I'm not positive, but. In other words, if landowners did not agreeingly sell them an easement, they could file for eminent domain.
And I have written down here somewhere how many people have signed the okay. 60% have said yes to, this is to the survey, and 13% have said no. There's 40 people on their land team here in Broome County that might be contacting this week. Let's see.
But they don't know the exact route yet, right? Or they do?
No, no. There's going to be maps, and on those maps it'll show you alternate routes along with the one they're thinking of right now, and that's what they have a public hearing for. They'd like to work, I think I told the Delta in here, they want to look at our noise ordinance and they want to look at our road usage ordinance. And then they're going to take a look at ours and then Sanford's and then Windsor's, town of Windsor. So they can abide by all of our regulations, etc.
Are there large compressors involved?
No, not in Broome County.
Because they make a lot of noise.
Two things. First of all, my understanding is that it's in the pre-filing stage, so I'm not sure I would say that it's already been approved.
Oh, okay.
And then the other thing is the Millennium Pipeline, when did they build it? 2007. They are putting in 2 brand new 15,000 horsepower compressor stations. One is in Minisink, which is down by the city, and the other is in Hancock. So there is, just because they're not putting in, because there's not going to be any gas flowing through there right away, or not, maybe not much, but as Pennsylvania comes more online, as New York comes online, it's probably going to get connectors coming in from New York Gas. I wouldn't rule out the fact that a compressor station might pop up along this thing down the road, because that's what's happened with the Millennium.
Well, they have other things that make noise too besides the compressors, yeah.
But that's big.
Right, but the
Yeah.
compressor stays long
Oh,
after
yeah.
construction's
It's
over.
permanent.
Construction's pretty
They don't
short
care
and
about a
quick.
few trucks and stuff. They're thinking of something much bigger that they have in mind.
In Broome County, they'll have one block valve, and in 3 places, I have written here, and don't quote me, 10 by 10 fenced areas around above ground.
And more, the compressor station. But at this point, the tank is already full.
Oh, yeah, they, according to them, they won't be able to get feeder lines into it from New York State because it's filled with capacity now.
So why does that say that it as an open access pipeline, local municipalities and public utilities could possibly tap into the line to provide for residential and commercial and industrial natural gas
That's
service?
to take out of the line.
But how, if it's a high pressure system, how can you tap into it?
Same way they tap into Millennium. I mean, I don't know exactly what they do personally, but I mean. But you know what I'm saying, if, say, the city of Oneonta needed gas, more gas than whatever their present situation is, they could put a tap that would feed into the city of Oneonta.
It won't benefit us, we can't even get internet. Or cable TV.
But yes, obviously, the pressure would have to be greatly reduced before it went into a residential neighborhood or whatever.
So if there's an accident, it could be hellacious.
On the high pressure side, you mean?
Low pressure.
Like in California.
And work with and educate all the fire companies, the ambulance services that have grants available for the emergency services to teach them things around.
And Steve Hertz, our legislator, he was emphasizing the jobs, as we all know. Welding, I guess, is the main one that they would need. And one of the people there is going to work with BOCES and BCC in giving welding classes so that they can hire local people.
For the construction part, I mean.
For the welding, yeah.
To build
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and then once it's built.
Well, and I agree with you with the accident part. I don't know how many grants they give. I don't know how many, I don't care how many training classes they give. If you lose lives because of an accident, how do you replace them? Is that in a grant? Is that in a training class? If you have an accident, you're going to lose lives with something high pressure like that around the community. Tell me how much insurance you're going to provide to bring back that life.
Did they mention anything about security?
They probably did. We're not at that stage yet. I just went as a, because they asked some town people to come, and they said something, something about 10.
They said that they
10 people, yeah.
daily by helicopter.
Because, I mean, that's
You mean
right away
during
you need more
construction?
security because.
Right, they did talk about it. Like I said.
Patrol the Millennium daily.
Actually, they look for certain birds because they're attracted to.
The reason I asked if we could charge them 1% for the volume that goes through the line, we've got big potential there for our fire department.
What they projected was $2 million, was it? $2 million a year for each town. And apparently, it's legally set somewhere that 66% goes to the school, 25% goes to Broome County, and 9% would come to our town. Which, you know, Tommy and I really don't understand when they're, you know, using our roads and our land, that they're only giving the town 9%.
We're going to negotiate those figures.
Well, I mentioned it to Mr. Decker, supervisor of the town of Sanford, and to Randy Niles, and they both said it, you know, it's just a typical thing, you know, percentage that they use, and they were quite happy with it. Tommy and I were the ones that weren't.
Randy Williams.
Oh, sorry, Randy Williams.
I was going to say, what Randy?
Sorry, Randy Williams. But I, you know, definitely go to that meeting. I'm looking and seeing if I wrote anything, because they did talk about.
Well, they have environmental impact studies done by New York State or what's the Ag and Markets, I think. Different studies they do, like they did for midstream, that were submitted by the state.
Oh, yeah.
And that depends on whether or not they do it as a public entity or if they do it under some other criteria. Under some other criteria, they don't need to do any of that. So, that might be an issue. And how much money are they, after the pipeline is done, like with Millennium, do the municipalities get any money from that at all?
With this pipeline, what they said is $2 million for our municipality per year. But the town of Colesville would only get 9% of that. The
And that's
schools would
forever?
get.
$2 million per year?
Oh, I don't know, I didn't ask. Go to this meeting.
The state has a formula on how they assess
Yeah.
pipelines, and I cannot explain it to you, but basically the state gives the numbers to our local assessors and then they simply put our equalization rate to it.
Yeah, it has something to do with the tax levy.
To our local schools in Albany.
To our
Local schools. Yeah, local school.
Do we have to split that up for the whole county, or? is it-
No, no.
Just the townships
Town of
alone.
Colesville. Yeah.
I asked Mr. Lewis a question the other day about that.
But do go to the meeting. They, you know, your questions asking the head person would much be better than, you know, what Tommy and I got at our little 1 hour session.
So is it a morning appointment or what time? Does it tell you the
I think
time?
it says 6:30, or I'll tell you it's 6:30.